Hello, I'm Jennifer Greiner, owner of Divine Vitality. I am a coach as well as a licensed clinical professional counselor and art therapist. And welcome to my channel. YouTube is new for me, but I love creating videos. I love being on videos, showing you who I am and what I do. So I love working one-on-one with individuals to help them better understand themselves, to step into their own power and experience what it's like to live an aligned life. And I love utilizing human design to do this. After 10 years of being a therapist, I found human design and I started implementing it with all of my clients. At the same time, I was starting to shift into coaching. So, what I saw with my therapy clients is that human design cut their treatment time into nothing rather than trial and error. Try this, where, a lot of people honestly don't do the homework in therapy. They aren't as invested because they're not paying for it, or they might be doing therapy because someone else wants them to. But either way, human design allowed them to reach their goals in no time. And it was so cool to witness. As a human design reader and expert, I was able to look at their human design chart and pull out pieces to help guide them towards their goals. And it worked like crazy. So, in my one on one coaching container, Inner Work, that's exactly what I do. I'll drop the link to that program. It's a 4-month container in the description. So go check out Inner Work if you're interested in what it would be like to work one-on-one with me, how I utilize human design, and the other support and resources that I offer within that container. So, what this series is all about is me going through my design. So, as an emotional projector, but really just as a projector, we learn by learning about who we are, but also who we are not. So, if you're a projector, watch these. You're going to learn so much about yourself by who you are, how we're the same, similar, and also how we're different by what you are not. If you're an emotional authority, you're going to learn about your emotional wave when I talk about my emotional wave. And as an emotional authority, it is so important to understand how your emotional wave works, how an emotional authority ourselves works, because we make up half the world. Right? That's kind of crazy. Half the world is an emotional authority, yet society functions as a sacral authority, which is only 35% of the world. So it's really helpful for yourself if you're an emotional authority, or if you're not an emotional authority, to understand those in your life who may be an emotional authority. When we talk about authorities, how we make decisions, emotional authorities are at the top of the hierarchy, if you will. If you have a defined solar plexus, and I'll show you that when we walk through my chart, if you have a defined solar plexus, you are an emotional authority. So I have a defined solar plexus. I am an emotional authority. And what that means is we have to sleep on it. We are not meant to make decisions in the now. We do not function in the now. We need to ride our emotional wave, which usually takes at least 12 to 24 hours. I've had some bigger decisions that take months to feel out. It's all about the feels. So I'm really excited to walk through my chart with you. Today, we're just going to cover some of the basics. So let's look at my chart. And so this is called a body graph. If you're new to human design, welcome. Welcome to the wide world of this big rabbit hole that, for me, will forever change anyone's life. I discovered human design over 3 years ago and have not been able to stop. So, starting with the fact that I'm a projector, right? Here's the solar plexus. So that's that emotional center that I talked about. So I do not have a defined sacral, right? It's undefined. So that makes me a non-sacral being. I am not a generator or manifesting generator right off the bat. So the other aspect that makes me a projector is that I have defined centers. because if my chart was all undefined, I'd be a reflector. But I have definition. But I don't have a defined throat connected to a motor center. So I'm not a manifester either. So that makes me a projector. There are many different types of projectors. While we make up 20 to 22% of the world, we are all vastly different. So that's me as a projector. I'm the seer guide. I'm really efficient, and I'm here to show people how to manage their energy, that there's a better way of doing things. My strategy is to wait to be invited. So projectors are known for giving unsolicited advice, especially with my undefined throat. I don't really know uh, kind of the best way to say things. I can describe things differently every time. So um, I really need to wait for that invitation. I need to make sure that I'm being recognized. And that alone as a projector has immensely changed my life of really tapping into that. Also, deconditioning. There's a huge part of deconditioning. I had to decondition my throat, how I spoke. I had absorbed other people's voices and I wasn't focusing on my one voice. So I already shared with you about being an emotional authority. So I have the tribal wave. And down the road, I will show you what that wave looks like. But it's your typical wave up and down. It comes up and then it's called ratchet that just drops right down. So it made sense of a lot of my emotions, how I feel into things, how I really tended to regret the decisions that I made in the moment because I was absorbing others' sacral energy, their yes, no, and saying, oh, yeah, yes. Well, really, it was people pleasing. So it never really worked out that well. And I was left with regret and trying to find my voice and understand, what am I supposed to do here? So I also have what's called a split definition. So you can see through the channels, right? The gates, the numbers connected together to form the channel, easy flow of energy. So here's one definition. My G center to my heart, ego, to my spleen is connected. That's one voice that I have of energy in my being. But because I'm an emotional authority, my emotions are rooted in my groundedness. So it's really important that I listen to my emotions. Now, ultimately, I would find someone who bridged this definition. So if I could find someone who has gate 40, a hanging gate 40, so we create this electromagnetic channel. I'll probably do another series on compatibility down the road. That would bridge my split, and I would have such a beautiful, easy flow of energy within my being. So the other aspect that a lot of people talk about in human design is the profile. So I am a 3-5 profile. So that comes from my conscious 3 line in my sun and earth and my unconscious 5 line in my unconscious sun and earth. So the 3 is the martyr. It's also all about experiencing. And then the 5 is the heretic or warrior. It's about problem solving and coming to the rescue. The 3-5 together is called the Great Life Experimenter. So I need to try things. I need to experience the world. When I don't, I fall into my not self theme of bitterness, right? As projectors, our self theme is success. We are destined to succeed. But when we're not in alignment, we fall into bitterness. And with my emotional wave, this can be really intense. When I'm on the bottom of my wave, not only do I tend to feel melancholic or sad, I also can really fall into bitterness. Especially if I'm not experiencing life. So it's really important for me. Well, it was in my journey of human design to understand that I'm going to fail. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make mistakes. And how can I get back up every time to move forward and continually experience life, but also to share my lessons with the rest of the world, right? Let me guide you. Let me tell you how I failed so that you don't make the same mistakes. Let me tell you what I learned so that you can find alignment with ease. That's what I love doing in my one-on-one work. So, Can also talk about the incarnation cross. I will probably do that in a later video, but my incarnation cross is the right angle cross of the unexpected. So that was huge for me to really understand what that meant. Incarnation cross being our purpose, our soul's purpose here in this lifetime. And then talk a little bit about digestion, my strongest sense, and my environment. So, my digestion is open taste. I'll go into this in a later video. My strongest sense is outer vision. I've really been utilizing that, especially to enhance my authority. And then my environment is shores, natural shores. And when I learned that, I really saw, I mean, I live in Maine now. I live 2 miles from the ocean, but I've been drawn to rivers. I love the mountains, so I love going north. I love going into the woods and finding a river or stream to sit. It's just where I feel it is easiest to live my design, where I am most in touch with my energy is in that environment. And I was actually talking with someone recently on Instagram. Oh, go follow me on Instagram at the Vital Jen. Would love to chat with you there. I'm in my office. This is an old mill building. These big windows behind me look out onto the river. And I just love it here. There are trees. I have found the balance of earth and water, right? So I just love that shores environment. And that, even before I really understood that, I found this office and I've had it for over 2 years now. So let's dive in to my design, right? This body graph, it's just so beautiful. It's just so cool. And I am so excited to share all of this with you. So to start with the crown center, as you can see, I have no gates here. So my crown is completely open. So not only is it undefined, meaning I don't have fixed, reliable access to inspiration, but it's completely open. So I'm open to all kinds of influences. I do need to be careful that I don't get swept away by others' inspirations or these grand ideas, fantasy, and, inspiration that's not mine. So the gift here with our open centers is that we can mirror. So I can mirror other people's inspirations, but this also makes me, in a way, a type of medium for all things inspiring. I also tend to feel really energized when I'm surrounded by certain people that really are alive, or art, or music, or wildlife, right? I talked about loving the woods, and I just love wildlife. So it's really important for me when I get inspired to check in with my authority, to check in with my emotions. How does that feel? Right? I get inspiration all the time, but a lot of it is just fleeting. It comes and goes, and that's okay for me. I recognize that, but the ones that stick around are the ones that I feel a real pull to emotionally are the ones for me. So then to talk about the mind. So the mind, the ajna, is all about conceptualizing and thinking. This is kind of the processor, right? Inspiration comes through the crown, which is a pressure center, pressure moving that energy down into us, into the mind to process, to filter it. What can come through, what doesn't need to come through. And also, each of the centers connect with a physiological part of the body. So I forgot to mention in the crown, it's connected to the pineal gland. And that is really about inspiration, connection, kind of manifestation. It's also connected to sleep awake. So then with the mind, it's connected to the pituitary gland, which is also in the brain, which acts like the third eye, right? You can see the similarity to the centers, to the chakras. And go watch my HD human design intro video and caveats to learn more about that. So with the mind, mine is undefined. So again, I do not have fixed, reliable energy when it comes to thinking and conceptualizing. When I try to, when I'm, fitting into society and working that 40, 50 hour a week, crazy, because projectors are only supposed to work 4 hours a day, I get burned out. My mind gets utterly drained. And sometimes people experience this as migraines. I don't get migraines, but I definitely get headaches. And through awareness of energy, of transits, of moon phases, I have learned when and how to watch out for energy headaches, energy hangovers, so that I can really manage my energy. So, with an undefined mind, I like to think of it as open mindedness, right? We have this open mind in a way, so I can contemplate anything. I'm really good at putting myself in other people's shoes, of practicing empathy, because I have this way of out of the box thinking, if you will. Also, through understanding my human design, I also have realized no wonder I'm a therapist, right? It kind of all makes sense. So, what else with the undefined mind? Sometimes we can be forgetful, we can be easily distracted. Sometimes there's detached objectivity, again, really helpful for putting yourself in other people's shoes. With our undefined centers, too, there's what's called impassive wisdom. So we're learning the wisdom here. Again, no wonder I'm a therapist, because with an undefined mind, I'm really intrigued by how the mind works. I'm really interested in it. So it's no wonder that I pursued a degree in psychology and ultimately therapy, counseling, so that I can help people to understand their minds. So yeah, now let's look at my two gates. So looking at gate 11 first. So it's conscious and unconscious. So when I'm looking at this in other people's charts, it's usually where we need to grow, right? Here it's in my unconscious and my conscious. So I need to really work with this gate. Perhaps I'm in the shadow of it. Perhaps it's something to really bring to my conscious awareness fully. Perhaps it's something to master, all of that. So, gate 11 is the gate of ideas, also the gate of peace. It's a harmonic condition in individual society that permits assessment before renewed action. So I'm going to make sure that I don't fall into the shadow here of obscurity. I don't want to have obscure ideas. I really want to kind of rein it in with idealism. I'm using gene keys here, so that I can shift into the essence of light, of having these ideas really light up. And then I always like to look a little further on the lines that they're in. Um, I only wrote out one of mine here. But anyway, one of my lines is all about adaptability, finding my inner balance to accept transition. And that certainly has been a challenge. I didn't like change growing up, right? Who did? Especially with an emotional authority, I didn't have time to process. Everybody needed it now. So it was a real challenge to have ideas that I needed to sit with and process and be guided through, when my way of processing and being adaptable was not understood. As projectors, a lot of times we're projected onto. Most people are projected onto because of the projected channels in the circuitry. Um, but also five lines. Five lines are projected onto. So being a double projector, again, no wonder I'm a therapist, because I've been having people dump their stuff on me my entire life. And I learned to be okay with it. And I also learned how to monetize it, right? So then looking at gate 43, so gate 43 is unconscious for me. And this is the gate of insight or breakthrough, making sure that I'm hearing things, that I'm not falling to deafness, but it's not a literal hearing. I mean, it can be, but it's more so, I think of it as listening to my intuition. It's insight, to have epiphanies. It's all about breakthrough, right? It's about expressing and transforming inner truth into a unique perspective. So you can see how my two gates really work together. But with this being unconscious, part of the challenge is to bring that unconscious to the conscious. Yeah, so that's what I do with a lot of my clients, is utilizing these untapped gifts that you have, that are a part of you, that can help you succeed, find alignment, live your design, find your self theme, success for me, right? All that. So to end part one, we'll look at my throat quick. So with an So the throat being all about expressing, manifesting. It connects to the thyroid. So what I see a lot is if people are out of balance, they can have thyroid issues. As I began my deconditioning journey through my throat, I was kind of surprised that I didn't have thyroid issues, or have a diagnosis of thyroid issues. Sometimes they are mystery thyroid issues, um, because I was definitely out of alignment and had a lot of conditioning. So, with an undefined throat, it can be hard to find the right words, right? Sometimes I overtalk or don't talk enough. Sometimes I say things just to say some things and can be a chatterbox and interrupt and dominate a conversation. So, on my journey just of life, I really kind of had to say to myself a lot, shut up, Jen. Just stop talking. So that helped me learn to control my energy here because I only have one gate, and that's gate 31. That's the gate of influence. It's all about leadership. Each gate in the throat has a voice, and this gate's voice is I lead. So I started bringing that into my copy, into my content, into what I talk about, what I do. You'll see there's a lot more kind of leadership in my chart here, but that being my one main voice to really lead. There's also an aspect in the gene keys where my voice and frequency is really powerful, and it's part of my purpose here as well. So this gate, more specifically for me, is about selectivity. I have to be really selective about what I say. So over the past years, I've been really working to intentionally communicate, to the point where someone recently called me a thoughtful communicator. And that was the best compliment. I felt so much recognition after I was recognizing myself, to be recognized by someone else, especially by someone who has not recognized me in the past. So it was beautiful that I really utilized the higher vibration of energy in my throat, not falling into the shadow anymore of arrogance. Right? When I was growing up, I could be pretty arrogant, but really utilizing my gift of leadership, that I lead. I can say that confidently. I know that I can trust my ego. When we talk more about the heart, I have balance of willpower and ego. Sure, I have to decondition it, or had to. But it really allowed me to not feel selfish, or all those things that society projects onto us. Don't talk about yourself, don't be egotistical. I'm confident. I'm speaking who I am. It's not anyone else's problem of who I am. It's their experience, their response, their reaction to me being me that is coming as a projection. So I'll leave it there for part one. Check out part two. I'll drop the link so that you can just keep watching and comment. Let me know all of your questions. I love having conversations. I also mentioned Instagram. DM me there. Check out my website. I'll put that link in here too. And I would just love to hear, how are you similar? How are you different? What did I say that really resonated with you? Or maybe it irked you. Maybe it triggered you. I can be really triggering. And again, that's okay. It's a projection, and I love working with those one on one. So I will see you soon.